Good morning, students. I welcome the students of class 8 to the social science class. Today's topic: status of women in India through the ages. Learning objectives. We will acquaint ourselves with the position of women in the ancient society, deterioration in the status of women in medieval period, the major social evils prevalent in the Indian society, the role of reformers in the social evils eradication, women emancipation through education, social legislations and empowerment. The status of women in any society is a true index of its cultural, social, religious, and spiritual levels. The status of women in India has been subjected to many great changes over the past few millenniums. The investigation of the status of Indian women has to be traced back to the ancient period of Indian civilization. From equal status with men in ancient times through the low points of the medieval period, we have history for women folk. By many reformers, the history of women in India has grown to the current status. All tributes to the men and women who have done this possible. Generally, human society is constantly changing with additions, assimilations, and omissions from within and outside. Women constitute half of the population. This is imperative to have a historical understanding of the status of women through ages. The position of women was not uniform in all periods, differed with regional variation in ancient India, particularly in the early Vedic period. Women enjoyed equal rights, but with the passage of time, the status in the society deteriorated as a result of frequent foreign invasions. They were subjected to subjugation and subordination. New social practices, customs, and systems which crept into the society in turn put limitations and restrictions on the liberty of women. During the British Raj, many social religious reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Dayanand Saraswati, Keshab Chandra Sen, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Pandita Ramabai, Dr. Muthulakshmi Ammayar, Jyotirao Phule, Periyar EVR, Dr. Dharmambal were the prominent leaders who fought for the upliftment of women. Rajaram Mohan Roy's efforts led to the abolition of sati in 1829. Vidyasagar's crusade for the improvement in the condition of widows led to the passing of Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. The reformers rightly realized that female education as an emancipating agent in eradicating social evils. So, they started girls' school in various parts of the country, which brought significant changes in the lives of women. Women played an important part in Indian freedom struggle. Until independence, there was no radical changes in the status of women. In independent India, the last few decades have witnessed the all-round development of women. Women are now making their presence felt in every walk of life. Now, let us see the position of women in various periods, like the ancient period, medieval period, and British period. First, we will see the position of women in the ancient period. In the ancient Indus civilization of India, evidences show the worship of the mother goddess. Hence, the adoration for the mother is evident during that period. During the Rig Vedic period, it is believed that the position of wife was honored and women's position was acknowledged, especially in the performance of religious ceremonies. The later Vedic age witnessed a transitional development in the status of women, restricting her role in the social life except in the performance of religious sacrifices. Her social and political freedom was restricted. Sati became popular during the later Vedic period, where the widows either chose for themselves or were forced to jump into the pyre of their husbands. Women were denied to study Vedic scriptures. Medieval period. The position of women in the society further deteriorated during the medieval period, and they suffered from many social evils such as sati, child marriages, slavery, and female infanticide. Normally, monogamy was in practice, but among the rich, polygamy was prevalent. Monogamy means having one wife. Polygamy, having many wives. Sati was in practice particularly among the royal and upper strata of the society. Widow remarriage was rare. Devadasi system was in practice in some parts of India. Among the Rajputs of Rajasthan, the Johar was practiced. What is Johar? Johar refers to the practice of collective voluntary immolation by wives and daughters of defeated Rajput warriors in order to avoid capture and dishonor. The condition of widow became miserable during the medieval period. Mughal ruler Akbar attempted to abolish sati. In fact, very little attention was paid to female education. In spite of general determination, we find some exceptions like Razia Sultana, Queen Durgavati, Chand Bibi, Noor Jahan, Jahan Ara, Jijabai, and Mirabai. During medieval times, women's education was not completely ignored, though no regular separate school seems to have existed. Female education was informal. Girls usually had their lessons from their parents in their childhood. The rich appointed tutors to teach their daughters at home. The daughters of Rajput chiefs and zamindars studied literature and philosophy. Now let us see the position of women during the British period. For centuries, women in India had been subordinated to men and socially oppressed. The major effect of national awakening in the 19th century was seen in the field of social reform. The enlightened persons increasingly revolted against rigid social evils and outdated customs. Numerous individuals, reform societies, and religious organizations worked hard to spread education among women, to encourage widow remarriage, to improve the living conditions of widows, to prevent marriage of young children, to enforce monogamy, and to enable middle-class women to take up professions or public employment. In the beginning of 19th century, female literacy was extremely low when compared to male literacy. The Christian missionaries were the first to set up the Calcutta Female Juvenile Society in 1819. The Bethune School was founded in 1849. Charles Wood's dispatch on education in 1854 laid a great stress on the need for female education. Indian Education Commission of 1882 by Hunter recommended to start primary schools for girls and teacher training institutions and suggested special scholarships and prizes for girls. In 1880, Indian women began to enter universities. They were also trained to become doctors and teachers. They began to write books and magazines. In 1914, the Women's Medical Service did a lot of work in training midwives. In the 1890s, D.K. Karve established a number of female schools in Pune. Professor D.K. Karve, Pandita Ramabai made sincere effort to emancipate women through education was really remarkable. The Indian Women's University was started by Professor D.K. Karve in 1916. It was an outstanding institution imparting education to women. In the same year, Lady Hardinge Medical College was started in Delhi. Now let us know about the major social evils faced by women. Female infanticide and female feticide were social evils and committed because of family pride and fear of not finding a suitable match for the girl child. Therefore, immediately after birth, the female infants were being killed. This was banned by the steps taken by passing the Regulating Act of 1802 and the Female Infanticide Act of 1870. Child marriage. This practice was another social disgrace for the women. According to the Hindu Marriage Act 1995, the age was amended as 18 for girls and 21 for boys. Sati. The practice followed by the Rajput was abolished by the steps taken by Lord William Bentinck and Rajaram Mohan Roy. On December 4, 1829, the Regulations Act 17 was passed declaring the practice of sati or burning alive the widow was illegal and punishable by criminal courts. Devadasi system. The word Devadasi or Devar Adiyal means servant of God. Dancing girl dedicated to the service of God in a temple. Devadasi system was a social evil. There was also tradition of dedicating one daughter to the temple. In addition of taking care of the temple, they learned and practiced Bharatanatyam and other classical traditional Indian arts. Later on, they were ill-treated and humiliated. The Devadasi lost their dignity, sense of pride, self-respect and honor. Moovalur, Ramamirdam, Rajaji, Periyar and Thiru V.K. raised slogan against this cruel practice. As a result, the government passed the Devadasi Abolition Act. The Madras Devadasi Act was a law that was enacted on 9th October 1947. The law was passed in the Madras Presidency and gave Devadasis a legal right to marry and made it illegal to dedicate girls to Indian temples. Students, today we have learned about the status of women in India through the ages. In the next class, we will learn about the role of the social reformers in the upliftment of women. Till then, take care. Bye.